Hello, fellow game masters, dungeon masters, storytellers, and referees. I welcome you to The Game Master, a podcast dedicated to help you become the best game master you can be, and I'm your host, Talon Manley. Today, we'll be talking about a topic that many tabletop RPG players have faced at least once in their gaming career: player character death. Welcome to episode 1, The Bittersweet End, exploring player character death in TTRPGs. Player characters, or PCs, their death in TTRPGs is a topic that's talked about fairly regularly, as it can be an emotional and impactful experience for everyone around the table. There are some players who view PC death as an essential part of the game, whilst others see it as something that should be avoided at all costs. Today, I want to explore both sides of the argument and try to come to some kind of understanding between the two. This way, you can be informed and know how to approach this topic with your table before your next campaign. So let's get started. First off, let's talk about why PC death can be so emotional. When players create their character, they invest a lot of time and thought into creating a backstory, a personality, and then spending a lot of time role-playing that character. This character becomes a part of them whether they realize it or not. And PCs are often the center of your player's emotional investment in the game. That character is how they interact and have an effect on the world around them. And the death of a character can be a real blow to the player and group as a whole, but it can also disrupt the narrative of the game, especially when the time comes to bring in the new character whose personality, backstory, etc. can throw off the current party dynamic. Part of the job of the Game Master is to balance the emotional weight of a PC's death while maintaining a level of fairness and keeping the game fun for everyone. It's a challenge, but it's possible. This falls under managing expectations and communicating with your players before the game starts. One of two arguments regarding player character death is that it's an essential part of the game. It can add stakes and tension to combat encounters, as well as add realism to the game world. If players know that their characters can die, they may approach combat encounters more strategically, making the game more engaging and challenging. Also, it can create some extremely tense moments for when your party's overall HP is low and their resources are running out, but they still have enemies to fight. This can go one of two extremes. It could be extremely rewarding when they defeat the enemy and beat the challenge and get to survive. Or it could be really somber when the heroes meet their end. In my personal opinion, I don't believe that PC death should be avoided. I think it should definitely be on the table. But before you come to conclusions, let me explain in a bit more detail. Firstly, PC death should never be a surprise. There should be clear warning signs about a potentially deadly situation. Context clues, hints, even literal examples. Any way to make it known to your players that death is a possibility if they continue down the path they're on is a powerful storytelling technique that deserves to be mastered. Secondly, PC death should always be a possibility. Just a possibility. In my experience, when PCs feel that they're invincible, they tend to get bored with the game and start to lose interest. Even just the threat of death can add some much needed drama and tension. Remember, the hero is never winning 100% of the time. Sometimes they get their asses handed to them and need to retreat and lick their wounds. If anything, that's just even more dramatic and could be a great storytelling tool. Thirdly, PC death should only happen because of something in-game. You should never let your emotions get the better of you and specifically target a PC until they're dead. Trust me, I've learned from that mistake the hard way. The death should be a direct consequence of one of their actions. Now, with that said, sometimes PC death happens because of just bad luck and bad rolls. That's just the nature of the game, unfortunately. But if you, as Game Master, can make the death feel special, then that will help alleviate the frustration of losing a character to just bad luck. Making the death feel special is one of the best ways to help alleviate frustration and help the player and group deal with the emotional hit from losing a character. It could be anything from giving the PC some last words before dying, having them go out in a blaze of glory or destruction, or even having the player decide how their character dies. Do whatever you need to do to make it feel special and impactful. Personally, I'm a huge fan of the last words method, with the caveat that they can't be healed because, mechanically they are dead. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning into the Game Master. Before we get back to our show, I wanted to take a moment to talk to you about our sponsors. If you are a business owner or an individual who wants to promote your product or service to a passionate and engaged audience, you're in luck. The Game Master is currently open for sponsorship opportunities. Our listeners are fans of all kinds of tabletop role-playing games, and they're always on the lookout for the latest and greatest tools and resources to enhance their gaming experience. By sponsoring the show, you'll have the opportunity to reach this targeted and enthusiastic audience. If you're interested in sponsoring the Game Master, please reach out via email to talon@talonmanly.com. That's TALON@TALONMANLEY.com. We'd love to hear from you and discuss how we could work together to promote your brand. Thanks for your support. Now back to the show. Now, we're going to talk about the other side of the fence, where PC death should be avoided at all cost. The biggest arguments I've always heard and read for this is that players invest a lot of time into their characters, with everything from backstory to personality, and spend a lot of time role-playing that character and getting emotionally attached. And because of that, it's better to avoid PC death, because why would you want to have spent all that time with that character only to have them potentially die to bad luck and bad rolls? Why would the hero of the story meet an untimely end falling off a cliff just because they failed to balance on a makeshift rope bridge? This emotional struggle is only amplified if multiple characters die multiple times, which can then lead to a lack of interest in the game or setting, causing players to just leave the table. If a PC dies in what seems like an arbitrary or unfair way, it could also create frustration and even possibly resentment. I speak from experience with that one. This can create prolonged problems around the table that can be impossible to fix if they're not taken care of immediately. Again, speaking from experience. Another part of this argument is that death of a PC can heavily disrupt the narrative and consistency of the game, and can make it feel like a less coherent story. Ultimately though, communication is going to solve this. Communication with your table before the campaign begins is of the highest importance, because it sets expectations that you have for your players and that your players have for you. It also allows your players to talk about what kind of game they're wanting to play in and what kind of game you're wanting to run. And then all of you reach a middle ground to find something you all enjoy. You see, that's the beauty of TTRPGs. It's a collaborative storytelling game with your friends. Thank you all for taking the time to listen. I hope this episode was informative and helpful. Be sure to swing on by my website, talonmanly.com, TALONMANLEY.com, where I have merch, memberships, and links to my other social media platforms and content. If you have any ideas for an episode or you want to participate in an episode, please email me at talon@talonmanly.com. Again, that's TALON@TALONMANLEY.com. Thank you so much for listening, and as always, happy gaming.